Willkommen in Bremen, die Stadt der Straßenbahnen. Apparently. So I know I kvetch a lot about transit in and around Hamburg, so today I figured I'd head a few hours to the west to Hamburg's biggest city rival. Honestly, like if we're talking bigger cities in Germany, probably my favorite in the country. This is the central station of Bremen. This is the weird exclave of Bremen. This is the sexy mannequin of Bremen.
And these are the stairs of Bremen, right?
No, these are just the stairs. Now these are the stairs of Bremen. God, I'm holding it so close to my mouth just. But today we're here to talk about one of my favorite parts of Bremen, the Bremen Straßenbahnnetz. That was really good timing. The Bremen Straßenbahnnetz, which is a long German word meaning the Bremen Tram network. And specifically, we're talking about a missing line of the Bremen Tram network and its remains, which I guess would be described in German quite simply as Straßenbahnnetz LiniePlus. Welcome to Bremen, and my submission for Classy Whale's One Line More contest. Why Bremen should bring back its missing tram line. Alright, I don't know if you noticed, but I really like watching trams, so welcome to the foam zone. Oh yeah, we love the foam zone. I'm foaming so hard right now. I really do adore this city. Bremen has many bus lines and advertises tram lines labeled from 1 to 10, but that doesn't tell the whole story, unfortunately. Bremen's tram network has gone through periods of intense growth, contraction, and now growth again over the past 100 and some years. With this comes scars and stories of plans that fell through, short-sighted designs, and shifting tides of politics. For starters, in 2021, the city offered a free-to-ride Line 11 called the City Ringbahn that would take tourists on a loop around the city center. However, it was a limited offer that only lasted half the year and ran only on Saturdays, so perhaps it was a little half-baked. There is also Line 9, which no longer exists as a full-fledged tram line. However, a local museum does actually run historic trams in the Bremen Tram network sometimes, specifically on the second Sunday of each month, and those are given the Line 9 designation. Also, running historic rolling stock and mainline service is cool, and the fact that they can do this is really neat. But Line 7 doesn't have some quirky historic trams. In fact, it doesn't have any funkiness or silliness at all. Line 7 was a real, actually useful tram line that now only exists under several layers of asphalt, a victim of car-centric policies in decades past. Well, damn. That was kind of dramatic, wasn't it? Bremen nowadays calls itself the City of Trams, despite having only around half the lines it had at its peak pre-World War II, when the network numbered 13 lines. Though, much like today, it actually skipped some numbers, with the highest numbered tram being 16. Line 7's first section opened around 1908 in this area, Bremerhaven. It would expand over the years until its demise in 1965 when it was replaced by buses. The final route would go from the Findorfring tram loop all the way to Rablinghausen, which for those not familiar with the area, I know are just place names to you, but trust me, it's a pretty dense route for a good bit of it, and one that, in my opinion, definitely supports the dense mode of transport that is, well, a tramway. But then, in 1965, number 7 went away. Now, instead of a one-seat ride between these two termini, the route was taken over by 2 bus lines, to 24 and to 25, and those routes have basically been unchanged since. So right now, I'm standing in the current bus loop, former tram loop, in Rablinghausen. The one thing that really gets me is, with the exception of like this area directly around the bus loop, there is so much density here, and what really hammers home how well this area supports the tram is that there was one bus stop, and Xander, who's behind the camera, can attest to this, that where they actually still had the tram track in front of the bus stop, like peeking out of the stones. You know, just kind of a reminder of a reminder of what once was. And it's interesting because just going through here and turning off the existing tram network, it makes you wonder how hard it would be to actually just put it back in, because this is still an active right-of-way served by bendy buses. We just kind of gotta put the tracks back and run the trams. At first you may ask why? Why would the self-proclaimed city of trams remove a perfectly usable tram line that more than warrants that type of capacity, especially in a notably progressive city like Bremen? Well, guess what? What if I told you it was partially the fault of American car culture? It's always American car culture. Damn you, Detroit. Every time I close my eyes, I see F-150s and Cadillac Escalades. I want them to go away. How do you even turn around on a street like that? Oh, jeez, God. But you know, as popular as it is to crap all over the US and their car-centric influence on the world by urbanist YouTube, in this case, some of the thinking behind the decisions that led to this line closure can quite literally, to some degree, be traced to US influence. The country of Germany as we know today was split in two after World War II, notably between the more Western-aligned West Germany and the Soviet-backed East Germany. However, West Germany as we know it wasn't actually formed until 1949. In the roughly 4-year period between Germany's surrender at the end of World War II and the formation of the Federal Republic of Germany, what became West Germany was split between 3 different powers: the US, the UK, and France. However, the American government zone was mostly concentrated in the southeast of Germany, notably covering the state of Bavaria. But for logistical reasons, they needed access to the sea. As such, the Americans took control of the historic port city of Bremen, which also included the major ports at Bremerhaven, which was entirely surrounded by the British zone, which is also why, nowadays, we have this tiny little city-state surrounded by the much bigger state of Lower Saxony. Even after the dissolution of American control, though, American military presence remained across Germany, and many Americans, of course, remained in cities such as Bremen. And with those close ties with the US came changes for Bremen in the latter half of the 20th century. If you look around Bremen today on an urbanist level, it sometimes seems like a city that was once at war in itself, and maybe to some degree still is. And while today it's very obvious that many positive changes have been made and are still continuing to be made, some very visible scars linger, such as this highway that literally cuts through the historic city center, right near the central station. What the hell? Throughout the 1960s and 70s, tram lines were closed and some sections were even neglected. Part of the historic Line 10 was closed in 1963, the historic version of Line 5 was shut down in 1964, the historic version of Line 6 closing 4 years later. With the addition of the Line 7 closure in 1967, this means that by 1976, only 6 lines remained, all truncated to some degree from just over a decade prior. The closures of the old Line 6 and 7 even still scars today, with the Dorf district, even 50 years later, only being served by bus despite increasing density. From the late 1970s until expansions began again in 1998, thanks in part to renewed local interest in public transport, the network remained virtually unchanged. Perhaps this was for the best though, as according to documents from the era, it seemed the ultimate plan from the Bremen state government was to completely shut down the tramways. Something similar happened in the 1970s back home in Hamburg, which to this day still has 0 active tram lines. However, part of what made the closure in Hamburg a bit more palatable to residents was the promise of expanding other transit modes. Though I complain about them because, well, I live nearby in Stade. This one's here for all those map foamers. There's no denying that Hamburg's U-Bahn S-Bahn networks are, on the whole, pretty damn good. And even back in the 1970s, though a lot of routing some existing lines are different from today, there's no denying that it was a network on the grow. Bremen as well wanted to get in on this type of network operation though. So now I present to you the plans for the Bremen U-Bahn network, and also the Bremen S-Bahn network. Not to be confused with the modern Bremen Regio S-Bahn network, which is really more of a suburban rail network instead of truly S-Bahn-esque debatably. No, the Bremen U-Bahn and S-Bahn plan were actual plans for a Hamburg-esque set of U-Bahn S-Bahn networks, and these had been planned going back to 1952. These maps here ranging from 1967 to 1972. Special thanks to Spacey and the TFTSB Discord for sharing these scans and letting me use them here, by the way. Plan was to crisscross the area with high quality, high capacity, high frequency rapid transit lines. Not bad for a city that, even today, only has just over 560,000 people. There's even mock images for what the U-Bahn lines would look like, and some initial construction even started. Look, there's some stops here that cover areas that Tramline 7 used to cover. That's amazing! It's kind of a shame it fizzled out. I think the 1970s oil crisis and the following recession is to blame. Perhaps ironic seeing as trams are clean and electric, but hey, what you gonna do, I guess? I hate car culture. So Bremen never got its U-Bahn network. The S-Bahn network it eventually got was very different from what was proposed, and the tram network, for the most part, was saved. But there's still a need for lines in areas where Tram 7 used to drive. The capacity and desire is there, and older residents and lookbacks done by local outlets have fond memories of using the line. It was a piece of transit that helped connect a community, and isn't that the goal of transit on the whole? Connecting people and places together in easy, efficient manners? I actually have seen some great model proposals for bringing back Line 7, including this one here from Bex89 on LiniePlus. It's a great design on the whole that covers most of the route that was placed by the 24 bus line, while at the same time advocating for keeping that as well as a repeater service for the sake of capacity. In addition to the added benefit of formerly rail-served areas having connections again, the Neuvar Nord area would also get its first ever rail connection with this plan, which
I just think they're neat.
by the way, LiniePlus is a great website with some really cool ideas, and I urge any urbanists or foamers out there who like German rail to give it a look. Other proposals I like on there are the Hamburg U-Bahn Line 55 plan and the Stade Regional Straßenbahn line plan. Obviously, some proposals from communities like this are more likely or possible than others, but Bremen actually is a place where I think this can get done if there's enough willpower. I know I haven't talked about them much yet, but the BSAG, who runs the trams in Bremen, seem really receptive to ideas, and also they have a great merch store. Official tram model, yummy. Not to mention, but there are already new expansions being done in Bremen, with more already entering the planning stages. I come to Bremen from Stade at least a couple of times a month, and I always try to make my way to the Huchting Rolling Center to see how work on the Line 8 extension is going, for example. There's also other major proposals, such as the 2021 Bund plan, which, if implemented, would add another 120 kilometers of trackage to the network. And don't even get me started on Bremen's little sister city, Bremerhaven, which, like Hamburg, ripped up its tramways decades back, now has very public activist efforts bringing them back that are gaining headways. Bremen, you're a beautiful city, but honestly, I think you should bring back Line 7 and, get rid of that Autobahn from the Mitte. So on that note, this is where I would usually answer a viewer question today, but I actually have a package I want to open, so let's jump to that zone. So Sturt, who runs the RE5 and a few other routes in Niedersachsen, had a contest basically where they had their own version of the Chrome dinosaur platformer game. But if you played it and you got within the top 100 high scores, you would get a special reward. And this is something that you're going to see it, and I've worked very hard for this, and on many a good 2 or 3 train trips.
Yeah.
So let's see what I got, because I'm really happy I played well enough to win this. See, I'm not a fake gamer girl after all, so let's just... Cindy leather anything? No. But yeah, here we go. The official Start limited edition socks. These are actually really cool, Niedersachsen themed socks. There's a train here, and if you go down, there's, oh god, is that
It's a mammoth.
there's a mammoth, and there's kayakers.
I like the butterfly.
Here, I'm gonna try them on, okay? So, yeah, honestly,
We don't do free feet on this channel.
no, you gotta pay extra for those. I'm really happy with those.
This reminds me of when you're little growing up in Texas and it snows a singular inch and you don't have mittens, so your mom makes you put on socks to go play in the snow.
Then you know you're gonna freeze to death. It's 37 degrees.